before we move on to any further examples, we're going to show you a modification to the formula. So we know that Sn equal to n over 2 into 2a plus n minus 1 times my common difference d. Now if I were to take the same formula and I were to split inside of the bracket, so I would have n over 2 into a, I would have a plus n minus 1 times d. Now notice that a plus n minus 1 times d, when we were deriving the formula, actually represents the last term. So the last term is a plus n minus 1 times d. So I could say that Sn is equal to n over 2 into a plus l. But I would of course have to know the last term to use the formula. So the only difference here is that l is your last term. We now move on to example 5. It says, in an arithmetic progression, the fifth term is 34 and the eighth term is 52. Find the first term and the common ratio. Alright, how do I go about doing this? Now remember again, we're talking about the n term. And of course, we want to mention that there's a difference between the sum of the terms. The sum of the terms, that's the formula that add up all the terms for you. They also have the formula for the n term, which is an equal a plus n minus 1 times my common difference d. So it's important to note the difference between the two of them. Now what you got is the fifth term, so I can call it a5 equal 34. And we got the eighth term, a8 is equal to 52. Now remember also that to modify this formula to get the fifth term is pretty straightforward. So the fifth term is just going to be a plus 4d, which is equal to 34. Call it equation 1. The eighth term will just be a plus 7d, which is equal to 52. We call that equation 2. Now what we have here is a pair of simultaneous equations. Alright, and since we have the coefficients of a being the same, we can simply go ahead and apply elimination method. So we can have equation 1 minus equation 2, whichever way you want to put it. So we could say, alright, draw a line here, and we subtract. Now a minus a is 0, so that's gone. We have 4d minus 7d, that's minus 3d equal 34 minus 52, negative 18. So we divide both sides by minus 3, so d is equal to 6. Now we simply sub this into an equation of our choice to find a, so we could say sub d equals 6 in equation 1. So I would have a plus 4d and d6 is equal to 34. So I'm going to just replace this by with 6. So a plus 24 is equal to 34. So a is equal to 34 minus 24. So a is equal to 10. So therefore, the first term is 10. And the common difference is 6. So the first term is 10, the common difference is 6. And that's pretty much it. What is important to note in this question is that it says the fifth term. It didn't say the sum of the first 5 terms, so don't get the formulas mixed up. You have to read the instructions very carefully. Now here's an example of a real-life question. Osman is given an interest-free loan to buy a second-hand car. And by interest-free loan, we mean that there is no actual interest on the loan. Whatever he borrowed is what he's going to repay. He repays the loan in monthly installment. He pays $20 for the first month, $22 the second month, and $2 extra each month until the loan is repaid. Given that the final month repayment is $114, part A, show that Osman takes 4 years to repay the loan. And part B, find the amount of money in dollars of the loan. The first thing to note in this case is that the time in the question is given in terms of months. So when we say it takes 4 years, what you're expecting when we work this question is that we're going to get 48 months. Alright, so let's get right into the question. If we were to write out this series, what would happen is that I would have Sn, the first month would be 20, the second month is $22, The next month must be 24. And this is going to go on and on until we actually get to the final month payment, which is $114. In fact, I could put 3 dots and put 114 because 114 would be my last term in the series, and it's important to know that. And it says show that Osman takes 4 years to repay the loan. So I know that this is the last term. Now the formula for the end term is an equal a plus n minus 1 times d. I don't know what n is, but I know that the last term is 114. So what we simply need to do is to equate the formula to 114 and transpose a n, because we know the first term is 20 and we know the common difference is 2. So I'm going to have 20 plus n minus 1 times d, which is 2, is equal to 114, my last term. We just need to simplify this. So I'm going to have 20. If we expand the bracket, we're going to have 2n minus 2 equal 114. So this should be 114. Alright, so this is 2n. 20 minus 2 is 18. So 2n plus 18 equal to 114. 2n is equal to 114 minus 18. So we can say that 2n is actually equal to 96. And all we have to do now is divide both sides by 2. So 2n over 2 equal 96 over 2. So n is equal to 48. Alright, but we know that 48 months is equal to 4 years. So this is in months. So 48 months equal 4 years. So therefore, Osman took 4 years to repay the loan. Part B of the question is asking to find the sum of money in dollars of the loan. Now, what's the difference here? We want a sum. So for the first month, he paid 20. For the second month, he paid 22. For the third month, he paid 24. We want to know the total amount he paid. So I'm going to have to sum the series. Now, we all agree that it is arithmetic. So we can go right to the formula that says that Sn equal n over 2 into 2a plus n minus 1 times d. But the thing about it is that I don't have to use this formula. We can use the alternate version that says Sn equal n over 2 into a plus l, because I know what the first term is and I know what the last term is. So I'm going to have Sn equal, and of course n is in terms of months, so that would be 48 over 2. The first term, or the first amount of money that was paid, was $20, and the last amount paid was $114. So we can say that Sn would be equal to 24 multiplied by 134, and that is equal to 3,216. Now it is imperative that you write a statement, because of course it's a real life question. So therefore, the total amount of money repaid is $3,000, or $3,216. Very important that you write a statement. Alright, now let us look at how we find the n term of a series given a sum. Let me start with a simple series. Let us say we have Sn equal 4 plus 6 plus 8 plus 10. And this goes on and on and on. If I want the sum of the first two terms, it would be the first term, which is a1 plus a2, which in this case would be 4 plus 6, which is going to give me 10. Now notice if I want the sum of the first three terms, I would have a1 plus a2 plus a3. But look at this, I already have a1 plus a2. So I can say the sum of the first three terms is equal to the sum of the first two plus the third term. What does that mean? It means that I can transpose this for the third term. So I can say if I take the sum of the first three terms and I subtract the sum of the first two terms, I am going to get the third term. Very important here to highlight this, because we can actually generalize this. What do I mean by that? Notice that we have the sum of the first three minus the sum of the first two gives me the third term. So in general, we can say that Sn minus Sn minus 1, so this would be the sum of the first three. Let us say that n is 3. The sum of the first three Sn minus 1 would be the sum of the first two, and this would give me the n term, which is equal to an. Very powerful concept here. So if I give it a series, or if I give it a formula for the sum, and I ask for the formula for the n term, all I would have to do is go Sn minus 1, and I would get the formula for the n term of this series. Alright, here's an example of a typical question. It says the formula for the first n terms of a series is given as Sn equal n into 3 minus 2n. Part A, find the n term, and then part B, show that the series is arithmetic. So once again, we saw the n term is an, which is going to be Sn minus 1. Sn is a formula for the sum of the series given, and this is given as n into 3 minus 2n. Minus Sn minus 1, which means that I'm going to have to replace this n by n minus 1. So I'm going to have n minus 1, open bracket, 3 minus 2 times n minus 1, and I'm going to simplify these brackets. So the first bracket would give me 3n minus 2n squared minus n minus 1, and let me simplify this. This would be 3 minus 2n plus 2. So I'm going to have 3n minus 2n squared minus n minus 1 multiplied by 3 plus 2, that's 5 minus 2n. So I'm going to have to expand these two brackets. So we have 3n minus 2n squared. When I expand it, I still have to keep it in a bracket because I'm subtracting everything. So I'm going to have 5n minus 2n squared minus 5 plus 2n. As you know, we look for like terms. So this is 3n minus 2n squared. Alright, we cancel that 5n plus 2n would give me 7n. The minus on the outside will change the sign of everything in the bracket. So I would have minus 7n plus 2n squared plus 5. Alright, looking at the like terms now, and I'm going to put the highest power first. Now minus 2n squared plus 2n squared, that's 0, so that's gone. 3n minus 4n, well, 3n actually minus 7n, that's going to give me minus 4n. And then you have the 5. So we could just say that an is equal to 5 minus 4n. And this is the formula for the n term. So if I want the fifth term, I simply put 5 into this formula. If I want the sixth term, I simply put 6 into this formula. The next part says that show that the series is arithmetic. I just need to show that the difference of two sets of consecutive terms would produce the same value. So we could probably show that the second term minus the first term is equal to the same thing as the third term minus the second term. So I could probably say if arithmetic. Alright, so you need a statement for that. Now how do I get the second term? We simply put 2 into the formula. So let me just use a bracket here. I'm going to have 5 minus 2 times 4. To get the first term, we simply put 1 in there. So it's 5 minus 4 times 1. And this should be the same thing as producing the third term, which I put 3 in there. 5 minus 4 times 3. Minus the second term, which again, of course, would be 5 minus 4 times 2. So if both sides are equal, then I know for sure that the thing is arithmetic, and whatever value I get on both sides will definitely be the common difference. That is important. Let's put this inside our calculators. On the left, I'm going to get minus 4, and on the right, I'm going to get minus 4. So I know for sure that this series is arithmetic, and my common difference is minus 4. Because when we subtract two consecutive terms, we get a common difference.